scale exists to measure evil acts. From impulse killings to serial murderers, it considers cruelty, torture, and brutality. Forensics now has a tool to measure who is most evil.
The first time I met him was at the Oregon State Prison.
Detective Bruce describes meeting convicted murderer Keith Jespersen.
We go into this large interview room in this very old prison, and they brought Mr. Jespersen in. People describe me as a big guy, but he was bigger than me. Huge hands, bear-like hands, I mean, just huge paws. Very personable, very cooperative. He had no hesitation in talking at all. Nice guy. I mean, quite honestly, very nice guy. Would not trust him as far as I could throw him, which isn't very far.
Bruce wants to better understand this man who may have killed his Jane Doe.
I would not want to be a woman who angered him. That seemed to be his trigger. He said he picked up a lot of women. Everything was normal. He was, I guess, fond of picking up prostitutes at truck stops and did it quite frequently. Described several times having perfectly normal relationships with other people, long-term relationships. If you're able to make it past the first 15 minutes with the guy, you're probably safe, or not. One of his victims was a longtime friend of his who he, as he described, she says, you know what, my life is pretty much over, I just want to die, and he laughs about it. And he goes, really? And she says, yeah, you know, I wish I was just dead. Well, I can make that happen. Oh, really? Okay. And he kills her. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. He told a couple of stories that just really probably couldn't have happened the way he described them.
But it is Detective Bruce's assessment that this man is telling the truth about killing his Jane Doe.
And in this particular case, he described being on the road for a long time. The weather was foul and it made him more irritable. When he went to the rest area on I-5 with the victim, the only way I can describe it is that Mr. Jespersen would, in his mind, write a script for how this relationship was going to go. And I asked him, I said, so if a prostitute was loving and caring, would that anger you? And he goes, no. And that's what I wanted. He wanted to believe that for the time that they were with him, that they cared about him, that they loved him, that when they made love to him, they were enjoying it. It wasn't an act for money. It was an act because they cared about him. And I'm just guessing, but the combination between his being extremely tired, her being, in his words, rough in how she pursued sex, it was business, it wasn't intimate, and rewriting the script, if you will, that was the trigger for him. I noticed that when he talked about his other murders in the interview, there was also that same component of disappointment. They did not live up to his expectation. And if they failed to fulfill that role, that was possibly the trigger. I don't know. I'll never know, maybe never know, unless he tells us. And that would be his sole prerogative to do that. I would like him to, but I don't know if he ever will. This is the one I think probably most accurately describes her at the time of the murder. Every time I look at the eyes, every time I look at the eyes on that photograph, I see pain. If you look at the gaunt cheeks, the pallor of a long-term alcoholic or drug user, that's a homeless person. That's somebody who's been out in the rain.
The sketches are Bruce's only hope of bringing closure to the case.
The plan is to take these, create a poster, and then what I will do is I'll go on a road trip, and I'm going to post it in every county jail from basically the Oregon border down to Sacramento, maybe a little bit beyond, every truck stop, every low-income housing complex or trailer area that I can find. Somebody out there knows her, and I'm hoping that that's where my lead is going to come from, somebody who knew her, and if nothing else, just give me the next step in this journey of identifying her.
All I know is I wouldn't want to be dumped here. She's nothing more than a piece of trash to him at that point. She's lost her value to him in any way, shape, or form. So hopefully we'll be able to identify her and bring some sense of closure to her family if she has any.